Hi, good morning. Wanted to do a little video update with Maple here. um, it's been about a week, I think, that I've had her. Meant to do a video update earlier, but just getting around to it today. So anyway, we'll pick up from where we are. So the main thing I've been working on with her is getting her focused. So you can see, like right now, she's pointing completely away from me. Now she is a little bit more tuned into me already today than she has been previously. I'm just gonna let her do whatever she's gonna do here while I talk. Right there, see how she's looking at me and tuned into me? She definitely would never have done that at the beginning of the week. I don't know how she was for you doing groundwork, but when I was doing groundwork with her the very first day, which I wish I'd filmed, but oh well, she always turned away and she never actually put two eyes on me and looked at me. Um, I think she tends to be a very shut down kind of a horse, and that's pretty typical of horses that have been cowboyed on, or just kind of went and did stuff. They didn't really get taught how to do things, and the horse doesn't really understand what's being asked of them. They just know the easiest way to get through this is to just shut down and do it. It's kind of like she's going la 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 la. This isn't happening. This isn't happening, and that can create a safe-ish horse, safe in quotes, um, for some things, because when they shut down like that, things just don't seem to matter to them. They don't get spooked or buck or rear or do all the things because they're not paying attention to what's happening around them. So you end up doing a lot with them, but they're not truly safe because at some point they're going to go what I call over threshold, and the the things that are the stimulus of the world is going to become more than what they can handle by just la la la, this isn't happening. And so that's where I think you were very smart not to trust her completely, because it's like, man, she seems like a safe kid horse, but then she's not sometimes. And that's exactly what a shutdown horse will appear like. So what we have to do with her is get her to where she can actually focus on the things in life that scare her. And to start out with, that's the human. And so that's why I've been working a lot on getting both eyes to actually look at me. So, like when you get her back, one thing I would suggest, and this is a good thing to do with all horses, but particularly with her, is if you're going to go in and catch her in the morning, make sure before you catch her, as you approach her, that you get both eyes looking at you. And then when you get that focus, back off a few steps and reward it, and then go back up and halter her. Notice, like, even right here, as I approach, her eyes turned away a little bit. Like right there, see how she's blocking me out a little? And when I take that pressure off, she looks back at me. So that tells me that right about here is where her bubble is. And when I get inside that bubble, she goes, oh my gosh, I can't look at you. I can't look at you. I got to block you out. Right. And then when I get outside that bubble, she goes, oh, I can look at you again. So the first thing is just being aware of what type of horse she is and where she's at mentally. Now, next, we need, like I was talking about, we need to get her focus onto the human, and then through that she's going to actually relax. I'll talk a little bit more about how that process works as we go. But the way I'm going to go about getting her to focus on me is I'm going to show her that I have information that she needs. I'm going to do that by giving her a simple body language command like pointing. So let's say I point like that. And then if she catches that point, it's going to be very easy because she's just going to go in the direction I pointed, and then nothing else happens, and that's her reward. But if I point and she doesn't go, then I'm going to bring my energy up, and then I'm going to get the flag involved. So it's that three-step process. There's the cue, there's the, hey, why aren't you going yet? Hey, you better have gone, and then, there's some consequences. So, sometimes people ask, or sometimes people think that I'm very harsh with my horses because I will use the lunge whip or the flag, and I'll make contact with them if I need to. But at the same time, some people think I'm way too nicey nice with my horse because I do all this stuff before I ever get to that. Usually I can have the horse doing everything I need it to do without making any contact with the horse. But it's just like raising a kid. It would be abusive if I just went up and was like, right there. There was no preemptive ask to that, right? But it really would be unfair to the kid to be like, will you go? please go, please go, please go. We've all seen that parenting style, right? Where where there's nothing following it up, and the kid just thinks, oh well, you don't mean anything. I don't have to pay attention to you, and that's when kids just disregard their parents. And the same with horses; they'll begin to disregard us if we don't follow up and enforce what we ask them to do. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask her to go. Now, I'm always going to ask her to go the opposite direction of the way she's set up, right? She's pointing to my right. If I were to ask her to go to the right, she wouldn't really have to make a decision to go to the right. She would just get away from the pressure, right? I'm going to point to the left because I want her to actually have to think, okay, I'm in a problem. I'm in a little bit of a jam here. He's pointing that way, but I'm set up this way. She's either going to turn away from me, which is more of blocking me out, or she's going to turn towards me and go off to the left. Now, back to the number one principle of horse training: make the wrong thing hard and the right thing easy. The wrong thing is to turn away from me. If she does that, I'm going to get pretty big with the flag. The right thing would be to turn towards me. If she does that, I'm going to give her all the time in the world to make that transition, and it'll be very easy. Okay? So I'm going to point, bring my energy up, drive in right at her shoulder. There, her head's coming towards me, her eyes coming in. And give her all the time here in the world that she needs. Keep going. There, she's going the wrong way, so she's got to make a choice to make. Go, go, and there she actually goes, and I bring all my energy down, and I'm just going to kind of trail her around here. So, a lot of people do groundwork, meaning that they have their horse run around them on the ground. I'm going to ask her to move off here. But in my opinion, it's kind of worthless just to get your horse and just lunge them or just run them around the round pen. The only reason I do groundwork is to build this communication with my horse. Every move that I make in the groundwork has a purpose that correlates to when I'm riding the horse and correlates to how their brain functions. I'm never just getting here and like, well, just run around the pen for a few minutes. That's just kind of pointless, in my opinion. Okay, now that she's moving around, I also want her to be focused on me while she's moving, which she is pretty good right here. So this should work pretty well. What I'm going to do now, you notice my feet have been all driving towards her. I'm driving right towards where my foot would be in her rib cage right here if I was riding her. I'm driving that energy towards her. My feet are moving forward. Now I'm going to ask her to stop. I'm going to move my feet backward. I'm going to kind of sit down, like rotate my pelvis under, just like I would if I was sitting on her back, and draw that energy into my chest rather than projecting the energy here. Keep going, girl. There you go. And then let's see if she draws into me. So I move my feet back, suck that energy in. Perfect. Now you notice she's almost squared up to me, not quite perfectly, but pretty close. She's truly focused on me with both eyes. Then she starts to lick and chew, which like I talked about, that relaxation comes from the focus. And she just seems like she's balanced. She's ready to go right. She's ready to go left. This is exactly what I want from her. So up until today, I think I've had her about a week. I've been maybe half a week. Anyway, I've been doing little, what I call mini sessions, and basically just getting her to this point. Now, some of those sessions, especially at the beginning, it took me 15 minutes of her turning away and turning away and turning away and turning away until she finally turned towards me, because she wanted to block me out and block me out and block me out. And for her to turn in towards me like this, she has to actually focus. And so what I would do is I would do that session until she focused once. I'd get the lick and chew and I'd leave. And that was the session for that time. And then I would try to do that 3 times a day. I don't always get to it 3 times a day, but my goal with newbie horses like this is to do that 3 times a day. That way they get that big reward. They literally get a couple hours of reward after they focus and lick and chew. And you can see now she's doing it super easily. I mean, when I first walked in the pen, she actually came over and focused on me. And now after a little bit of work, her focus hasn't left me at all. So this is great right here. So now I've got her focus really easily. Everything I've done up to this point has been passive. What I mean by passive is I'm only sending her to get her attention. right? I'm only stopping her to get her attention. It's all relative to what's happening in her brain. But now she's in a pretty good spot. And so now I'm going to start actively asking for things, because if I'm writing her, I need to be able to actively ask for things, right? Now I'm going to start to ask her to go at a walk or go at a trot or even go at a lope. Probably won't lope her in this pen. I'll probably wait till I get out in a bigger area for that. But I need her to start correlating the speed she goes to what I'm asking her to do. So this is where I start to actively ask for things. I think one of the things you said that she does, um, that's not necessarily desirable, is when you ask for the lope, she's a little pissy going into it, maybe kicks out a little bit, or just doesn't want to get into the lope for whatever reason. Um, this is where that's going to start to get better, because when I ask her to go from a walk to a trot, and I've already seen this other days, she can get a little pissy there. So she needs to start to correlate me putting some more energy in with going faster, not getting pissy. And then when I ask her to lope, it'll be the same thing. There's a lick and a chew. Good. She's kind of balancing up right there. Excellent. Now, since she licked and chewed, I'm going to back off here a little bit and give her a little bit of a reward before I start doing active stuff. So this is her reward for relaxing there. I'll talk about coping mechanisms too real quick. So, well, first off, shutting down is a coping mechanism. That is the coping mechanism that she's been using through her whole life to just be able to get through life. She had to, basically, she was put in an unwinnable position by I think you said it was a girl that started her. They just jumped on her back and said, "This is what we're doing. You don't have any choice in it. This is what we're doing." and and she is basically was like, "Okay, well, I've got to come up with some coping mechanism. Some horses are going to buck, some horses are going to bolt, some horses are going to become hard to catch." Her coping mechanism was just shut down, pretend it's not happening, and eventually it'll all end. We don't want her to go into those coping mechanisms. Other coping mechanisms might be, um, chewing on the lead rope. I have some horses that, not mine, but some horses I'm training, that their coping mechanism is to pick up the lead rope and they're real mouthy and all this stuff. It might be to get distracted and lock onto something somewhere. What we want to do is put her in what I call the unstable state, which is where she's focused, but she's still alert and she hasn't relaxed yet. And when she's in that unstable state, which is focused, feet are still, just planted on the ground and focused, then she has the choice of, she's not going to stay in that state forever. She's either going to relax, which is what we want, or she's going to divert into some coping mechanism. Could be walking away, it could be getting distracted, it could be chewing on the lead rope, it could be uh, any number of things that we don't really want them to do. If they go down one of those other paths, I'm just going to ask for their focus again, basically do groundwork until they're in that unstable state again, which is focused, feet on the ground, and then wait for the lick and chew. We can't force them to lick and chew and become relaxed, but we can put them in that unstable state where they have a lot of options. But if they choose the relaxation option, then I back off and give her a reward, which is what I'm doing right now. Very good. All right, so now I'm going to start doing some active asking. So I'm going to come back out here, and now even right there, did you see how she blocked me out as I came up? But she brought her attention back to me. So I'm going to go ahead and reward right here the fact that she brought her attention back. Ideally, I'd like to be able to walk up here right there. She took her attention out to the right. So I'm going to do something here to get her attention back on me. It's a little different than what I said I was going to do, but you have to react to the horse. Do the training the horse needs in the moment the horse needs it. So what I'm doing here is asking for her focus back on me. In the past, her, like we were talking about, coping mechanism has been to dissociate and to shut down. And what I'm saying is, hey, this pressure is not going to go away as long as you're shut down and dissociated. But if you'll bring your focus back to me and associate with me, then the pressure will go away. So we're flipping the script on her a little bit. As soon as I see both eyes here, I'll take this pressure away. Still dissociating. Making this pressure a little bit bigger because so that she can't just keep blocking it out. She's got to think about some way to deal with it. There. Just barely. It was just a little bit, but it was good enough. Her eyes just kind of came back onto me right there. A little bit better. She didn't dissociate nearly as far that time. Now she's big dissociating. I'm going to kind of stay here, work into her eyesight a little bit until she looks in here. A little bit better. Dissociates. And she may just leave right here. And if she does, that's okay. It'll just be more work. There, she came back to center. If she chooses to leave there instead of coming back to me, um, then she just has to go do more work. So it's just make the wrong thing hard, the right thing easy. Not a big deal either way. There. A little bit better. So by the time I send this horse back to you, she's going to be really good at staying focused through everything. Um, but you'll need to keep that up because if you go a few months without getting her focus on you each day before you start to work, she'll go back into that shutdown mode very easily. Um, so that's what, and I'll show you how to do it. There's another licking shoe. That's why I want you to really work on that. Every day you go out and catch them. And I notice it even with my horses that I handle and I ride every day. If I just go catch them and I miss that little bit of dissociation at the beginning, they'll spend the whole day being dissociated and it's not a very good day of work. If I go get their focus on me and let them lick and chew and then go catch them, and it takes 5-10 seconds, we're not talking about a long time, then I have a really good ride for the day. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do some active sending. So she's kind of off to the left. Everything's that way for me right now, for her right now, in relation to me. So I'm going to send her to the right. So point, drive in. Now she dissociates off to the left. If she chooses to actually spin around here, things are going to get very big. So that was a lot more work and a lot more pressure for her than if she had just done it the correct way, right? Ask her to stop. Now she went off to the left again, right? So where am I going to do? I'm going to send her to the right. Bigger. Now she has a choice to make. She goes the wrong way. And she's doing this little thinking about double barreling thing. And it's getting better. She was pretty bad about it the first day. You got to stay safe and stay out of range if she actually does kick. But you also want to keep that pressure on so that that's not the answer. She needs to realize that when we apply pressure and ask her to go forward, the answer is to move forward. And you can't double barrel and move forward at the same time. It's two different things that her feet are doing. If I plant on my front feet and kick out with my back feet, I'm not moving forward, right? So you just need to keep the pressure. I'm not going to punish her a lot for that. I'm not going to make it a really big deal, but I'm just going to say, hey, that didn't help get the pressure away. Moving out forward helps make the pressure go away, and that little stuff will go away. She did it like once right there. Before she would do that all the way around, just trying to double barrel and double barrel. So it's going away, but just be careful, be aware of that if you work with her. Okay, she's set up to the right, so I'm going to send her to the left. But it's a good change, right? Because earlier she defaulted to going off to the left. Now she's kind of stuck to the right. If she spins around, oh, she's not going to, I don't think. Let's see. She's got a choice to make. Good. Drive her forward. But you see, I was very nice and easy with her there because she made a good decision. Keep walking. I'm going to kind of drive her forward here. She's a little stuck. I'd like her to free up and walk out a little bit more. All right, let's ask her to stop. Good. I'd like her to face up to me a little bit more, but at least she's focused on me. Now, since she's set up off to the left, I'm going to send her to the right. Now, the last couple times I've sent her to the right, she's turned all the way around and put her butt to me, right? But this time she seems much more cued into me. So let's see if when I send her to the right, if she goes correctly, meaning doesn't turn her butt to me. Ask her to go. She's thinking about it. Not too bad. And there's a lick and a chew. The only thing I didn't like there was she didn't clear that shoulder out, which is why I got a little bit big with the flag and kind of hit her on the shoulder with it. Um, she needs to have a little more respect for the cues. I think it's great that she's so dull to a plastic bag flapping around. That's going to make her a really nice kid horse when she gets a little more respect for it. But she also needs to know, hey, if I'm telling you to do something, you need to move your feet and go do it. She's a little bit like, yeah, it doesn't matter what happens in the world. I'm just going to stand here. And, you know, so there's like, this is a pretty good spot to leave her for a second. So I always tell people there's like a line in their brain. And if you're on this side of the line, they're responsive, which is a good thing, but they're anxious, which is a bad thing, right? So they're responsive to every cue or every stimulus in the world, which is not really something we want, right? We want them responsive to our cues, but not to all the other things that don't mean anything. If they're on this side of the line, they're dull and they're probably calm, which is great, but they're dull and they're not responsive to all our cues. That's a little bit where she is right now. She's a little dull. It's like I'm flapping this bag and doing all this stuff, and she's like, whatever. So she's very calm, which is why she's looking and chewing a lot, and her head's below her withers, her eyes are soft, like a lot of calm characteristics, but she's dull. And the problem is, if you have a calm and dull horse, but then something makes them anxious and responsive because something got above that threshold, they don't necessarily know how to deal with it because now they're responsive to everything in the world. So what we got to do is get them responsive to our cues, but then also get them back to being calm. Now they're a little bit dull. Then we got to get them responsive again, and then calm again, and then responsive again. And then pretty soon they start to straddle that line, and they'll be responsive to the things we need them to be responsive to, but calm about everything else. And the anxiety goes away, and the dullness goes away, and you're left with what you really want. So that's kind of what we're working on with her. All right, I'm going to point left and see if she catches it. So I point, bring my energy up, bring the flag up, and she goes. Now I'm going to point again. She's pretty dull right there. There she moves out. Now I don't love that she pins her ears like this when she's going around. Um, not really something I'm going to be working on per se, like specifically, but I think it'll start to go away as she starts to figure out the game. I love how quickly she brought her focus back to me right there. That never would have happened like the first 3 days I was working with her. That's great. You can see in her attitude and her look just says, what do you need from me? Right? I love that kind of communication and working with me. Big sigh. Excellent. This is a pretty good spot. You can probably see this in the camera. Um, if you watch her nose and her muzzle right there, there was a big twitch. Um, you can watch her bottom lip, top lip, all around her nostrils area, and then even going up from the corner of her eye down to the corner of her nose. Um, when you start to see twitching in all of that area, you want to wait for a lick and a chew. So when a horse gets anxious, if you think about predators attacking a horse, if a mountain lion is going to come up and grab onto the nose of the horse doesn't want that bottom lip flopping around and everything real loose. They're going to tighten up all that nostril area. Their whole face is going to get very tight. As they start to relax, all those nerve endings are going to fire again. They have a ton of nerves in their nose because that's how they figure out what to eat, right? What's the difference between dirt and a piece of grass? Well, the feelers in the nose is the only thing that's going to tell them that. So all those nerves have to turn back on when they go from fight or flight state down to rest and digest state, right? You can actually see all those nerves turn on through all that twitching. And then, of course, the lowest state of that is when they actually go ahead and lick and chew, and that's because their saliva flow is starting again because they're ready to be eating again. So we're seeing her twitch. She hasn't twitched in a little bit now, but she did quite a bit. So if we see a bunch of that twitching, we just want to wait and let her lick and chew. There is some twitching. Big blink. All of these things are signs that she's relaxing. Another big blink. A lot of the time I spend with my horses is just waiting for them to lick and chew. But you have to get them into the right mind state before you wait. You can't just walk into the pen and wait for lick and chew. That's not really going to do much good. You have to get them into that, what I call the unstable state, which is where she is, and there's the lick and chew. Excellent. Now I'm just going to back off of her a little bit and give her a reward for that. And then we'll go back to work. Keep doing the same thing. And this is where, like, if I was going to be done with her for a day, this is where I'd want to leave her, where she's standing where I put her. She hasn't really moved her feet any. She's focused, but she's over there, and she just doesn't feel the need to go anywhere unless I tell her to go there. That's the baseline for continuing on with training for me. If I'm going to go put the saddle on, okay, now she chose to walk up here a little bit, right? So that's just a good cue for me to go back to work. So I'm going to come up here. She's pointing off to the right a little, so I'm going to send her to the left. I'm going to actually move out here. Good. Good. That's a couple times she actually moved out in the trot without. Now I'm going to send her off again here because she's pinning those ears and kind of turning her nose to me, like almost like she wants to come bite me, or like she would do to another horse if she was trying to get another horse off her hay or something. And that's not an okay way for her to interact. So I'm going to get her going. What I like is that when I got her going a couple times there, she didn't choose to kick out or do that little hump up in the back thing. She chose to just move out forward. And that's the response we want, but we need more of that. You see how close she is to me right here? I'd like to be able to put a little pressure on her and move her out to the edges of the pen. But she just doesn't really have any respect for my cues yet. And that's why going from a trot to a lope when you're under saddle is not working. Because if she doesn't have respect for my cues going from a walk to a trot, there's no way she's going to have respect for your cues when you're under saddle going from a trot to a lope, and all these other things are happening. So this is working on that problem right now. So if I point, cluck, swing the flag, she should speed up. Better. Much better. I'll give her an opportunity to stop here. Now she stopped, but she didn't focus and she didn't turn in to face me, so I'm going to send her the opposite direction. I like that as an initial reaction. Good. She has a little more energy going off right there. I like that. She's a little farther away from me. All good stuff. Okay, I'm going to ask her to stop. Now notice that I'm not forcing her to stop. A lot of people do this with on the lead rope or on the lunge line, which is fine. I do it on the lunge line later too. But even with the lunge line, I'm not going to pull on the lunge line and say, stop, right? It's like if you went to a therapist and you were going to tell them all your problems. And so you tell them all your problems and then they say, okay, shut up, go back to what you're doing. Don't ever tell anybody about your problems and just internalize it all. It'd be a pretty bad therapist, right? That's not what we're supposed to do with our feelings, right? Well, same with horses. A horse's way of getting away from danger is to move its feet, right? That's their fleeing. That's their primary way of dealing with anything bad in their life is to move their feet and get away from it. So if I tell her, stop moving your feet right now and stand here, I'm like that therapist saying, yeah, I know you got problems, but I just want you to internalize them, shut them down, and don't deal with them. Instead, I'm going to say, hey, I get it. If you need to move your feet because you're anxious and you're not ready to come to a stop, you can keep moving your feet, but you have to move your feet in the direction that I tell you to, and it's going to be more work for you. Whereas coming to a stop is going to be easier. And eventually, she's going to move her feet, move her feet, move her feet until she says, man, this is silly. I just want to come to a stop. And with her, it's pretty easy because she's a pretty lazy-ish horse to start with. That's kind of her personality. With a more anxious or a more non-lazy horse, they're going to choose running around longer. But all horses are at some point lazy and want to stop, and so they'll find that. So instead of forcing her to stop, if she doesn't come to a stop, I'm going to ask her to change directions because you can't. If I'm walking this way and you want me to stop, but you can't tell me to stop. What you can do is tell me to go that way. The first thing I have to do is come to a stop, turn around, and go that way, right? So then you could say the same thing. You could say go that way, and I have to stop, come to a stop, and pretty soon I'm going to go. Are you going to tell me to go that way? And what have I done? I've just come to a stop. All right, let's do this again. She's pointing left, so I'm going to go right, point, and she goes. Not very much energy. Better. Notice she hasn't tried to do that kick out thing since the beginning, since the first couple times, and it didn't really work for her, and it's kind of all gone away. Now, I would still like her to be a little more responsive. She's a little on the dull side, but I'm okay with it for the moment. Better. Okay, that's the same direction that over here she stopped totally parallel to me and she didn't really face in. This time she's almost straight onto me, licking and chewing immediately. Big blinks. That's a really good state right there. All right, I'm going to do a few more of these and I'll probably call it a day for this session. I'd like to come back and do a few more sessions like this. But the first part of the week, like I said, was all the passive stuff, getting her to where she'll actually focus on me and relax. Now she focuses and relaxes pretty good. And so these mini sessions are more responsiveness. I want her to give me a little bit of effort and then she gets to relax for a couple hours. And then if she'll give me just a little bit of effort, she gets to relax for a few hours. That's going to be really important with her, especially like um, once we start riding her and we're trying to get her to go into that lope. I may ride her for 5 minutes, and if she'll give me some effort, then I'll stop for a while, or we might just walk, or I might tie her up or something. Um, she's not going to be a horse that you're going to go and do an hour session and just run her and run her and run her into the ground. That's just going to make her mad and not want to work. She's going to be a horse you need to give lots of little breaks and just get a little bit of effort and back off, a little bit more effort and back off. And after you do that for a while, she'll try to give you a ton of effort because she's looking for that reward, but you're not going to be able to start there. All right, let's send her again. So she's pointing off to the right. I'm going to send her left. And she gives me a little bit of effort there. Now I've got a really short flag here. I need to use a longer flag on her. I might actually switch, because we're really working on this responsiveness, I'm going to switch to this lunge whip. And I got to be very careful with this lunge whip not to be too aggressive with it, but I need her to get a little snappier. Now, she was anticipating me asking her to go to the left or to the right, so I'm going to go to the left. Anyway, opposite of where she's anticipating. That's better. I think she knows she knows the difference between this and the flag, because look how much more distance she's given me here. I'm going to ask her to trot. Good. I like that she went right into that trot. Now, she may be hurting a little bit. I'm not sure. She doesn't seem to be head bobbing, and I'm not very good with lameness stuff. So, um, I'm trying to be very aware of that. If there's some, you know, medical lameness type of reason that she doesn't want to get into that trot, because it may just be attitude. It may just be that she's lazy and doesn't want to work. And I never want to attribute things to physical stuff if it's really mental, because I think most of the time problems with horses are mental, and we try to attribute it to physical stuff, and we ignore the mental, and it gets us into trouble. But the opposite can totally be true. Sometimes there's physical issues and we think it's mental issues, and they're actually in pain. So, like I say, I'm not very good at that, but it does seem weird to me that she doesn't want to just flow into that trot a little easier. If you watch her as she goes into this trot, it just seems very labored. That was a little bit better, but the way she pins her ears as she has to go into that trot, I don't know. It just makes me wonder. So whenever she kind of looks at me with that look of, hey, I'm gonna come after you, I'm gonna put more pressure on her. There, I like the way she's just flowing through that trot now. She's using the whole pen. She's going way more to the outside. Excellent. That's probably where I'm going to quit her for right now. There, she looked and chewed also. So hopefully you can see with the camera, see how straight on to me she was. She is looking at me with both eyes. She is just like, okay, which way do you need me to go? And I'm going to reward her for doing that really nice trot where she used the entire pen and just moved out. So I'm going to be done with her right there. I'll come back and do a couple more sessions with her. Overall, I'm just real happy with where she's at. I'm real happy with how quickly she's coming along. So she's picked up this focus stuff really fast. Now she just needs to get a little less pissy about doing what I ask her to do. But I think I'm going to be ready to start riding her pretty soon. But all this stuff, I want this stuff to be good because it's just going to make the riding easy. If I was to start riding her right now, I'd have to be doing all these same fights, but from the saddle, and that just wouldn't be any fun. So, as you can see, I've left the pen, and she's stayed in that spot. You know, she may stay there for another 15 minutes before she moves. Um, Probably not, because I'm about to feed, and she's going to come over and eat her feed. But that's where I like to leave a horse, is just standing there calm with no reason to go anywhere. So anyway, I'll get this put up on YouTube and send over the link to you, and hope you enjoy it. Talk to you later.